Cincinnati Reds made a flurry of moves to get the official offseason started. We're going to get you caught up on all of them, including one very savvy sighting. We've got that for you on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. My name is Jeff Carr. His name is Steve Offenbaker, and we are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans that have been podcasting about this team for quite a long time now. We love talking Cincinnati Reds every single day, all week long, all month long, all year long, here on the Locked On Reds podcast that is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every single day, and we want to make Locked On Reds for the Reds fan that knows what happened. They want to know why, and we'll talk about why on today's episode. The roster is beginning to at least look off-season ready. We'll talk about where the payroll sits, what the Reds might have to spend, who's gone. Options have been declined, whether they be player options, club options, all that other stuff. Lots of different things are moving for this Reds team as free agency is getting set to officially open up. It's been kind of like the period of time where teams get to negotiate with their own free agents, and now free agents will become widely available. And then later on, we'll get into your questions and comments because we are live here on this Monday afternoon. I want to thank you for joining us here on the Locked On Reds podcast that is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season, the NFL season, with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And where we will get started here today is with the moves that the Reds made over the weekend. There were quite a few of them. Kind of wanted to start first, though, with the savvy move, the smart move. Yes, this Reds front office made a smart move with Brent Suter. Brent Suter had a $3.5 million club option for 2025, but they have sort of worked around that, and Nick Krall did a little bit of financial finagling as he's going to need all of the room that he can get to move this offseason.
Yeah, so basically what they did, let's just boil this down. They managed to keep the guy they wanted to keep and save themselves $750,000 to do it. What they did was they exercised the buyout of his club option for $500,000. They signed him back at a reduced rate for the 2025 baseball season, and then they gave another option for the 2026 baseball season. When you take the numbers for 2025, what he was going to make with the option, take that away, add back in the buyout, add back in what they signed him for, they saved $750,000. So savvy move, smart move, because we were all in agreement that Brent Suter was one of the guys we wanted to keep around. We wanted him in this bullpen for 2025. We were fairly certain he was going to be here for 2025. And kudos not only to Suter, but to the Reds front office for getting together and working it out and hammering out a deal that everybody seems to be happy with. Suter wants to be in Cincinnati, and that is evident by his willingness to work with the team and get this done, because he could have went into the free agent market and probably found a new home somewhere else. So this was great for all parties involved.
Yeah, I know that he has had a great time coming back to Cincinnati and just being home and getting to play professional baseball in, his home area. He wasn't specifically from Cincinnati, but he's from the area. And he had a decent year, 3.15 ERA in 47 games, the 65 and 2/3 innings pitch. I know that he dealt with a few injuries here and there, but nothing that was too crazy that cost him the season or anything like that. And while he's not a big strikeout guy, he does the thing that we loved that this pitching staff did in 2024, and that was limiting the walks. He does not give up free passes. And that's something that we saw a lot of teams really struggle with in the playoffs. I mean, the Mets basically walked themselves out of the NLCS against the Dodgers. The Yankees basically walked themselves out of the World Series against the Dodgers. I mean, it's just how it worked with those pitching staffs. So if you can get a guy like that can keep the walks down, that is huge. And that helps this bullpen continuity where, they're losing Buck Farmer to free agency. They're losing Justin Wilson to free agency. They're going to keep Sam Moll. So you're still going to have your two main lefties in Sam Mullen, Brent Suter, and then you could maybe see if Justin Wilson wants to return on like a minimum deal or something like that. But the point is here, this was a great move for continuity purposes. And like we said, a smart move to basically keep a guy and somehow get like a coupon on him as well.
I think that just how well Brett pitched is a little undervalued, under-recognized. Mm-hmm. I mean, his walks per 9, 1.6 for the Reds in 2024. I'll take that from a bullpen pitcher all the time. It's not a career best for him. He did manage in 2020's shortened season with the Milwaukee Brewers to have a 1.4 walks per 9. But that was a short season. That was the COVID year. So this was one of his best. This was his best last season in Cincinnati. Jeff, was his best full season as far as walks per 9 goes.
Well, and we talked a lot about the ability of Jakob Junis and Nick Martinez to really limit the walks. I mean, according to Baseball Savant, they were probably 2 and 3, or maybe they were 1 and 3. They were definitely 2 of the top 3 pitchers in the lowest walk rates. So Brent Suter was right up there with them. Now, the interesting part about Nick Martinez and Jakob Junis, they both declined their side of the option. Jakob Junis had a mutual option that he declined the player side of, and Nick Martinez had a opt-out that he exercised. They will both become free agents. Now, for my money, we'll discuss that in a little bit about Nick Martinez, but these were not unexpected moves. In fact, if you listen, everydayers know, we kind of set the stage for all of these moves. I don't think we actually got any of these wrong.
Nope, we did not miss. And that's saying something, folks.
That's
Write
new.
It down on your calendar. That's new. We did not miss on the opening salvo of transactions, which it makes me worried for the rest of the offseason, Jeff, because we may have had our one good week, and that might be it. But no, this team did exactly what we said and what we thought would happen. And I want to be clear. There's been a lot of comments about why didn't this team keep Martinez? Why didn't this team keep Junis? Neither of those decisions were made by the Reds. Both Martinez and Junis opted out. Now, we don't know what's going to happen moving forward, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But this wasn't a Nick Krall thing. This wasn't a Castellini thing. So save the terrible front office, terrible ownership, cheapskate stuff for a little bit later in the offseason, because this wasn't that.
Yeah, don't let that go just yet. Keep that one ready to go later on. But no, like if the Reds had their way, they definitely would have kept them, because Jakob Junis was only for $8 million and Nick Martinez was only for $12 million. Nick Martinez is probably going to make double that on a per year basis on the free agent market. And then Jakob Junis might make double $8 million. He might make 15, 16 million a year. Just the way that those guys pitch down the stretch, and the fact that they added starting pitching. Jakob Junis added it a little bit to his arsenal, and he started earlier on in his career, but he really was effective for the Reds in a starting role to end the season. Nick Martinez, though, was nails. Like, I think he made an argument that he is not going to sign a relief starting pitcher swingman role. He's going to sign a starting pitcher contract for next year. So the fact that they are now off the team, it's them betting on themselves, and I think it's a good bet in both cases. The other moves that were made to get to send people off of the roster is that the Reds did not pick up the option. They declined the option on Luke Maile. He was due to make, I think it was like $2.5 or $3.5 million through his club option for next year. And his performance from last year was not very good. So that wasn't going to be the thing. Something that we didn't actually see, and we didn't say yay or nay on, because I didn't know that there was really an option for it. Nick Martini was sent down to AAA, and he declined assignment to Louisville, so he became a free agent, as did Ty France and Austin Wynns, which we said Ty France and Austin Wynns would not be on this team next year. Santiago Espinal still a Red currently, but the non-tender deadline is really where we're kind of circling.
Right. That's coming up November 22nd, I believe, is the non-tender deadline. The decision has to be made somewhere around there. I believe it's November 22nd. And you and I are split on that, right? That's the one player that you and I think they should keep him, and he has options. They can stash him. I would like to see them keep him sticking around as
November
an insurance
17th.
policy. November 17th.
November 17th.
All right. So
13
for me, so we can't miss on that one, Jeff, because if they keep him,
One of us
we'll
is
just say
right.
just one of us is I'm gonna be like, just like I told you, they kept, and if they got rid of him, then Jeff will finally get to have a moment. So either way, we got that one.
But speaking of keeping guys, the players that left this team, who would we bring back? We're going to get to pick one guy, and now there's some qualifiers with this, but who would we keep if we were Nick Krall? We'll talk about that coming up next. You can tackle the NFL action over on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, and you could check out all the latest stats, the live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And while you're there, you can also check out some baseball action like, futures, next year's World Series odds. The value right now on the Reds will never be better. 60-1 currently to win the 2025 World Series. Terry Francona says, hold my beer. Just saying. Might be good to get in now before the Reds shopping spree begins. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We are talking Reds every day, every week, every month, all year long, all throughout the offseason, getting you set for 2025 and the playoff appearance that your Cincinnati Reds will be fighting for next season. Make sure that you subscribe, that you're with us every single day. We get at least 30 minutes of Red Stock in your feed every single day. All right, Steve, we detailed some of the guys that are leaving the roster, whether it be through options, the players declining them, the teams declining them, all this other stuff. And I kind of want to set this up a little bit, but who would we bring back from this group? We get to pick one guy. Now, the caveat with this is understanding a couple of different things. Reports indicate, and we talked about this on an episode
Breaking news, the Cincinnati Reds have made a qualifying offer to Nick Martinez, so that is the next big part of this. The Inquirer is reporting that they have extended the qualifying offer. That is the absolute right decision. I don't anticipate that he comes back on that, but that was exactly the right thing to do in this situation.
Because, okay, here's the thing. This is a gamble that the Reds can't lose. And I was going to set this up anyway, because if they keep him, that's $21.5 million. Yes. The Reds there's reports that their payroll may be close to what it was last year. What it was last year was just a smidge over $100 million. So you don't love the fact that you're looking at probably $32 million to spend, and 21.5 would go to Nick Martinez, but that would stabilize the starting rotation in a very real way. And I don't think he's going to take it, because he's going to be getting a multi-year deal. I could see him getting somewhere like 3 years, $75 million, 4 years, $90 million, something like that. And that's probably what he's looking for. But if he declines that, and depending on how big the contract he signs with another team, Reds are going to get draft picks back for it. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. And listen, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if he takes this deal. If he comes back,
I would like that.
It's a 1-year deal. The Reds know exactly what they're committed to. Martinez gets a reward for how well he pitched last season. And you're absolutely right. It gives the Red that piece in the rotation that gives Chase Burns time to get ready and get up here. It gives Chase Petty time to maybe show us something and get up here. It gives Connor Phillips time to show the Reds that he's actually fixed whatever the heck was wrong with him last season. So I would not mind that at all. And if he doesn't, well, then the Reds get a little compensation for him getting away. So I am really good with what happens either way on that particular situation. So, you set this up with what the Reds have to spend. And, if that is correct, if the Reds only have what was the number? $30 million?
32 million. Yeah.
$32
roughly
million.
32. It's like 32 and change.
If this front office and this ownership group is going to hold fast to that and say, we've got $32 million, here's your budget, Nick Krall, go do what you do, then I do not bring back any of the departed players. The Nick Martinez conversation notwithstanding. Say he turns down that qualifying offer. I don't pursue him any further. I don't pursue Junis at all. I don't even call Junis until we get much later into the offseason and see where his value is truly set at. And that is because we know what this team is with those players. And we know this team can't turn a corner without a friggin' everyday power hitting outfielder to drive this lineup. So it doesn't matter to me about those pitchers that got away. It doesn't matter to me about those role players that declined to go to Louisville. What matters to me is getting the outfielder. And that is the only place that the offseason conversation needs to begin, and nothing else needs to happen until that is done.
Yeah, because I think so the $21.5 million for Nick Martinez, if he picks that up, that would preclude them from signing Santander, or preclude them from signing Teoscar Hernandez. That might take them out of the Tyler O'Neill conversation, and Jock Peterson, who just became a free agent, which I don't love because I think he's a platoon guy. He's not an everyday outfielder, but he is a power bat. But I think he might even be priced out of him for one guy costing $21 million. If one guy has to cost $21 million, it better be the outfielder. And for me, that's kind of why I'm okay going after Jakob Junis. And we do have a question regarding Nick Martinez and his agent. And guess what, guys? It's everybody's favorite agent.
Scotty Boras, baby.
Scotty Boras. So yeah, he's going to go to free agency. He's going to go for a multi-year day. I mean, you mean to tell me that if this man hits the open market, he's not immediately going to get a call from the New York Yankees saying, here's 3 years, $75 million, or here's 4 years, $100 million, or he's not going to get a call from the Dodgers, or he might get a call from the Angels. The Angels are known to go crazy looking for pitching. I mean, see their deal with Tyler Alexander. Anyway, I messed up his name. The point being, he is going to be a hot commodity. He does not need to accept that qualifying offer. So I think if I'm looking at anybody on this list and knowing what it entails to bring them back, I would like to see the Reds maybe see if Luke Maile would take a lesser offer than what his club option was going to be. It's possible that that's not the case. And it's possible that he wants to go to a place where he's going to get more of a run as a catcher one, but he didn't have a great year. So maybe you could get him for $1.5 million. I think I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
It's not a needle mover. Definitely not at all. But yeah.
I'd like to upgrade that position too, but you're right. Yeah. It's not a needle mover. The pitchers like him. All the reasons why we thought when they brought him back the last time were good reasons to bring him back. All of those reasons are still true.
Those remain.
Those
are the pitching staff, good personality, things like that.
Right. It is what it is. Carrick Melvin, longtime friend of the show and listener, and I are on the same page with this. He says, I wish they could have kept Wins at Louisville. I did too. And I also think that might still be an option. I think that Wins absolutely did. I think that he absolutely had to go test the market and see if he could get a better gig somewhere. The question is, coming off the injury, is he going to get a better gig somewhere? I think when we get closer to spring training, if he still doesn't have a job, I could totally see him be a spring training invite, minor league contract with an opt-out somewhere along the way, kind of a deal. So he could still be around, is what I'm saying. And I wouldn't mind that at all. So if I got to bring one of these guys back, that's what I'm doing, because I just don't see, outside of an outfielder, any other major league move with the budget constraint that you're saying we're going to have.
Austin Two Bags, as the cool kids know him by. But when it comes to even Jakob Junis, I think the $21.5 million is something to consider here when it comes to the qualifying offer, because the qualifying offer in baseball is only similar to the franchise tag in football in that it's kind of the going rate for a really good player. So if it's not Nick Martinez, it's Anthony Santander, it's Teoscar Hernandez, and those guys actually might be more than $21.5 million. So consider it that the Reds, in order to make the upgrade to the outfield that we want them to, are likely to have to spend 2/3 or more of that $32 million to get there. So that does preclude them from going after a guy like Jakob Junis, who very likely could be around $15-16 million, but that's half. That's half of what the Reds hypothetically have to spend based on the reports that we're hearing. So that would then mean you get Junis, you're not getting Santander, you're not getting Teoscar Hernandez, you're probably looking at a Tyler O'Neill at that point. And if I have my choice between getting a big guy in the outfield or getting a third level guy in the outfield and getting Jakob Junis, I want the big guy.
Yeah, I totally agree. Listen, all right, Jeff, the comment section has been great while we've been talking. I've been kind of keeping an eye on it over here, and lots of folks joining us on this Monday to talk a little Cincinnati Reds baseball. So coming up, we're going to do your questions and comments and talk about all the things that you guys want to talk about. We've got that right after this.
Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. No matter what you're going to, if it's football, basketball, hockey, if you're going to a show, if you're going to a comedy event, a concert, Game Time's got you covered because they've got amazing last-minute deals. The closer that you get to the beginning of the event happening, the better the deals get. And plus, if you're going to a place that you don't know, like maybe you're not going to Great American Ballpark, maybe you're going out of town, they got the view from your seat, so you know exactly what you'll be looking at. You're not going to be surprised with some kind of concrete pole or something like that. They're going to show it right in the app. Download the Game Time app today and create an account and use that promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So you're going to get great last minute deals and $20 off your first purchase when you begin your Game Time journey today. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
If you can't be here with us on YouTube, make sure you take us with us wherever you go. We can be on any audio podcasting platform. I think we're on all of them. And if you find one we're not on and you want us on it, let us know. We'll try and make that happen for you. Also, while you're here right now, click subscribe, click like, please go click like, click that notification bell so that you don't miss a single episode. All right, Jeff, let's get into this a little bit. And I want to start, and hopefully it didn't just scroll away from me, but I want to start with how aggressive we think the Reds are going to be, because I don't believe they're going to be very aggressive as the offseason gets underway. Jeff, I think it might be a wait and see kind of deal for the Cincinnati Reds, because the market is going to take a minute to kind of bear itself out. I think I'm not quite sure how it's going to look. It was Willie that was kind of asking the question and saying the Reds need to wait out the market. Don't jump in and end up with like a $15 million candy again. And the candy part notwithstanding, I agree. The Reds probably are going to take a step back, kind of see where things shake out, kind of see what the rumors are around baseball in the offseason, what certain guys are looking to get. And then they'll make their decisions from there. And quite frankly, with this news of the qualifying offer to Nick Martinez, they might wait just a little bit to see what Nick is thinking and what he might want to do. So I think that's a good bar to set the offseason at. I don't expect there to be an announcement right away that the Reds went out and got an outfielder, that went out and signed a Santander, because I also think these players are going to take a beat and try and get the best deal that they can get.
Yeah, they saw last year where some guys signed, and then guys like Teoscar Hernandez and things like that, it took them a while to sign, then they only got like a 1-year deal. And you had the Cody Bellingers of the world, which I did see the Cody Bellinger picked up his option with the Cubs. He is not becoming a free agent. But all these different guys that had to sign, they might have been multi-year deals, but they included like multiple opt-outs and all this other stuff. There were a lot of funkiness going on. There wasn't a ton of like, wow, that's a big long-term deal for a free agent last year. So there's going to be a lot of that. I don't think Juan Soto's going to hamstring the market here. I don't think there's going to be a lot of teams waiting on him to sign before other players sign. And I don't think that the Reds are going to be one of those teams either that are waiting on him, or they're waiting on, name big player, top of the market pitcher or top of the market infielder. They're not waiting on that. They're just waiting to see if they can get somebody in their price range. And as much as it's not that sexy to be talking about like price ranges and what we think they're going to go after, and as far as like cheapness goes, that's what they are considering when it comes to the offseason. So guys like Santander and guys like Teoscar Hernandez, if they end up signing early, I don't necessarily think that is a bad thing for the Reds, because while they need those guys, they're probably not going to be that first team calling them. And is that a good thing or a bad thing to you? Because I'm kind of indifferent.
I'm indifferent as well. Good thing, bad thing. I just kind of. This from Jeff Frazier, not Jeff Carr, but Jeff Frazier. What are our thoughts on a reunion with Tucker Barnhart as catcher number 2? For me, Jeff, and it pains me to say, I think last season was probably the opportunity if they were going to get him back in a Reds uniform for a minute, because I think he's probably done.
Yeah, I think his opportunity when it comes to next year, and I think this is with anybody, not just the Reds, is with a minor league deal with an invite to spring training. And maybe he works his way onto the catching depth chart. I think if the Reds signed him tomorrow and said he's our backup catcher, I think we'd have some questions about that. So that's an interesting thought, but I think it's more nostalgia than it is, than it makes a lot of sense for right now. So I love Tucker, but that's not who he is anymore. The Tucker we remember is not who he is.
Right. I'm sure he's still decent defensively, but and you and I talked, I don't remember if we talked on the show about it, but I remember saying to you more than once, like, just call him up. Let's get him that moment to, wave at the crowd as it was there at the end of 2024 and have that moment, but it never quite came to fruition. And I was a little bummed about that. This from Nick. They say pitching comes out of major colleges better than years ago. How soon is Burns coming up to help the staff? Chase Burns, of course, Reds' #1 draft pick. Many were shocked that the Reds went pitching. Us, not so much, but I think we could see him at some point in time in 2025. I don't think he's really going to be a contender for the starting rotation right out of the gate, but
I would agree with that.
By the All-Star break, I think that's probably a real possibility.
I think take Rhett Lauder's situation as a rubric. Like we might see him in August, and part of the reason that we saw Rhett Lauder so early was because of injuries. So maybe don't take that part as a rubric. But I think that Chase Burns could work his way onto the major league roster by August, and we could see him part of the starting rotation. We might see Chase Petty before we see Chase Burns. So the race of the chase is on.
Oh boy. How long have you been sitting on that? Because it was not long enough. All right, let's move on to some more questions and comments, because that was terrible. Maybe we edit that out. I don't know. Have we heard anything? This from Carrie. Any other likely staff changes for Tito? Have we heard any rumors surrounding other coaches being added? I think J.R. House probably keeps a job. I don't know that he'll be the third base coach, but he'll probably keep a job. Obviously, Derek Johnson is sticking around. Got the hitting coach situation covered already.
I think the big ones are covered. Like any other moves, there's not really tea leaves to read when it comes to those moves. except
Well,
maybe
we haven't
one,
heard
but
if Freddie Benavidez is going to be involved with this team or not.
That's true.
I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out. I can't imagine he continues as the bench coach for Tito. Usually that's like you bring your trusted guy into that position. So I imagine, I would have to think that there's a move coming there.
I think it's probably based on, can he lure Sandy Alomar away from Cleveland? I don't think that's the case. I think Sandy Alomar is Cleveland for life, but that was his bench coach when he was there. But I don't see that happening. I think at the end of the day, we probably still see Freddie as the bench coach, kind of for a little bit of continuity's sake. And DJ's there as well for continuity's sake. But the other coaches, it's going to be one of those things where they announce like a flurry of moves. They're not going to be all hired at once, but it's going to be one of those. By the way, Terry Francona filled out his coaching staff. Here's how he did it.
Let's go to. Sorry, the comments are going faster than I can mark them off here. Here we go. Any more offseason opportunities for Matt McClain or CES at bats before we get into Goodyear next year, Jeff? I think there's some winter ball opportunities, but I don't know that I want either of those guys doing that. I liked them going to Arizona for the fall league and just getting some rust off and getting back into some routines. And I'm okay if they don't do anything else the rest of the off season. And as far as competitive playing for a team, obviously they're going to do their off season work, but I think I'm okay with them just doing their off season work now and being ready to go into Goodyear and get things fired back up.
I know a lot of guys, just based on personal preference, will play like down in the Dominican Winter League or I believe there's like a Mexican Winter League and things like that. I don't necessarily know, or they might go to Australia as well, but I don't necessarily know that either guy has to. It's going to be based on his own personal preference if they end up doing that, but I don't think it's one of those where it's like, if they don't, I'm going to have questions. The questions will get answered in Goodyear at this point.
This from Chris, with Walker getting 3 years, $51 million deal. Do you see Nick Martinez deal coming in? What do we see Nick Martinez's deal coming in at? Martinez is older, similar type. That $21 million for the qualifying offer, I don't know that Martinez is going to get much more than that. 25
to 25,
22 to 25. Yeah. I mean, and three sounds right. If he's going to get that kind of a deal. Carrick had a comment somewhere way back in the comment section saying that, he could see Nick just taking the qualifying offer and getting that payday based on, all of those other factors. So I'd be okay. Again, I'd be okay with paying him 1 year, $21 million. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. And definitely the Reds are, because I thought that there was a chance if the Reds were worried about him picking that up, that they just wouldn't even extend it. And I would have thought that would have been a bad look, but I don't believe he's going to take it. I think he's going to hit the open market and decline the qualifying offer. So I think there's part of that where like Nick Krall's kind of staring down Scott Boras and he's just like, you going to go? You going to go to free agency? Here's a qualifying offer. What do you think? Because yeah, if they retain him, then the pitching staff is looking pretty solid for next year.
All right, Jeff, that is a good point to go ahead and wrap up the front half of this edition. We are going to continue with the Q&A, but that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Reds. Thanks so much for making Locked On Reds your first listen today and every day. Now that you've listened to us, go check out Sully over on the Locked On MLB podcast. It's also part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We made it easy for you to find. There's a link to it down in the description of today's show. We're going to be constantly in your feeds this offseason where we will keep you Locked On Reds every single day.